control. Gravity is all that I know. She's over me. She's over me. She comes in with her hypnotic dance. She holds me here with only a glance. She's over me. She's over me. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Paranormal Portal Bedtime Stories from Beyond. I'm your host, Brent Thomas, and I am here to entertain you. And by God, that's my mission, and I'm going to stick to it as best I can. So I hope that you're easily entertained. That'll really help out a bunch. But if you have discerning taste, this may take a while. But welcome to the show, everybody. It's Thursday night. You are almost at the weekend, which is always a good thing. Of course, tomorrow night will be Friday night, and I'd like to encourage everybody to stop over to Freaky Friday on the Kev Baker Show channel and watch that show. Here's Kev, Joe Joseph, and Scotty Lopez. They put on a show over on the Kev Baker show on YouTube. Streaming live. It's excellent. Definitely check it out. I've been checking it out every time I'm prepping for my show on Friday night. I'm over there watching them, and it's a great time. And, of course, Mr. Kev Baker is here in the chat as well tonight. He's checking us out, which is always awesome. I see that YouTube screws up that URL every time now. I don't know why that started happening, ladies and gentlemen, why this on-screen chat is not working within our software here, but I keep having to refresh this URL from our chat, and then it works fine. And there it goes. Now it's going to start working. I don't know what the hell the deal is with that. It used to be a static URL, but now not so much. They must have a dynamic URL going on there, which means I got to keep doing that every time I do the show, which is kind of a pain in my tail, but that's all right. Living on the edge like I do, you know. No, I don't live on the edge. That was a dramatization. But I hope you guys are ready because, well, it's time for bed. And it's me again. Did you miss me? I'm back. Just in case you did. I am here, and hopefully I got a good show lined up for you tonight. As always, you can always call in and be a part of the show. The call-in number is 720-923-0500. Again, 720-923-0500 if you want to call in. And remember, the number's right up here, right above my finger. It says call in there. See that? It's really tiny font, but it's always been my intention to blow that up, but yeah, it's not been real high on my priority list lately. Got a bunch of stuff happening, a lot of emails coming in, a ton of emails coming in surrounding the podcast now, people sharing their stories, so we're going to have a ton of material to go over on our tomorrow night show as well, but it's, you know, I don't know if I'm going to, since we're going to be putting together an episode of just tales from truckers. I've been getting like a serious chain of emails from truckers telling me the weird stuff they've seen, and I'm really excited to put that together into a podcast episode. So that'll be coming up in the very near future. Don and I are working on formulating that, and I'll be doing a interview very soon with a gentleman from Australia who had a yowie in the road and interaction with a yowie right on the road. So very crazy stuff, but we'll be interviewing him as soon as I can, and that'll be a part of that episode as well. So a lot of great stuff happening. So yeah, thank you, Julia. Paranormal Portal Radio at gmail.com, at gmail.com, not .gmail.com. So it's Paranormal Portal Radio at gmail.com is the email address if you'd like to send in a story of your own or some thoughts of your own that you'd like to have included on the shows. I'm absolutely great with that, with a dialogue happening that way as well. I love it when you guys call in, of course, because then I can ask you questions and get real-time answers and stuff. But if you don't want to call in, that kind of freaks you out, then by all means, just feel free to email in something, and we'll definitely take a look at what you're talking about. Australia has the longest semi in the world, no? I don't know, do they? That may be true. I know there's some really huge ones up in the U.S. I've been seeing them quite a bit, and they're usually like UPS or FedEx will have like these tractors, and then there'll be like 3 trailers in succession behind it, like it's a freaking land train. And those will be buzzing up through the Northwest here all the time. So it's really crazy how much they can move at one shot. But I guess those guys must be one hell of a talented drivers. But clicked on to pick on Don. Imagine my disappointment. You can make fun of me if you want, Wes. That's fine. I'm good. I'm good to go. I'll do my best to take him on the chin. I don't have all the beard to absorb the impacts, though, like Don does. Don can take him all day and hardly phase him, but yeah, Don. Oh, that was funny last night. That was just great humor. But I'm sorry to disappoint you, Wes. Don can't always be here, unfortunately, which is, it's too bad because I do miss him not being here. I know you guys miss him as well. But I hope you're okay with just putting up with me on these other nights. He's just got a full life as well as his show life, so that's just the way it works out, I guess. But anyway, maybe he'll be in the chat and you can say hi to him. He usually stops in a few times per show if he can. So keep watching for the Aether archives to appear. Excuse me, I had a big cough. So anyway, I got some stories pulled up for you guys. I hope to keep you entertained, as I said before. So let's see what our first story tonight is. Has come from Missouri. And says, this story takes place in St. Louis, Missouri, the house I grew up in. I haven't read your bio, so I don't know what that's all about. The house I grew up in had a lot of poltergeist activity, and we also experienced a lot of paranormal activity. First off, I'd like to explain that we had an aunt that loved to tickle us kids. Sadly, my aunt passed away a few years before this incident, and the incident took place when I was about 9 years old, if I recall correctly. My parents had gone to a dance that night, and my sisters Anna and Rosa and my toddler cousin Anna Laura, a lot of Anna's going on there, and I all slept in the living room, and we had out covers and made a bed, and we were all laying in a row, and it was Rosa on the edge, and then me, then Anna Laura. In the middle of the night, my sister woke me up and asked, Jasmine, are you tickling me? And I answered, no. Rosa says, no, Rosa, I'm sleeping. Sorry. I wasn't reading that very well. She did not believe me and got really angry and said, if you don't stop tickling me, I'm going to make you go upstairs and sleep alone. That would have been horrible since we were all terrified to sleep alone in our house. Well, I ignored her because I knew I wasn't tickling her, so I turned back over and went to sleep. And again, I'm not sure how much later since I was sleeping, but she woke me up again and she whispered, Jasmine, that hurts. Stop tickling me. Well, I reacted and said, Rosa, I'm not tickling you, I swear. I was so afraid since I had no idea who was tickling my sister, and I was afraid of sleeping upstairs alone. It wasn't Anna or Anna Laura because they were passed out, and I cried to my sister and said, please don't make me go upstairs. It wasn't me. And at that, she believed me and said, fine, go to sleep. I think she realized that she was just scaring me, so she finally stopped. When we woke up the next morning to Rosa's cries, she cries that her stomach hurt so badly as if someone punched her. My mom happened to be in the kitchen and walked in on her crying. My mom asked what happened, and my sister told her that all night someone was tickling her and it hurt so bad that she couldn't sleep. She explained that she had blamed it on me and then realized I wasn't the one doing it. My mother asked her to lift up her shirt, and when she did, we were terrified. My sister's ribs had red finger and handprints on them. Anyone have any comments? Well, I think if it's a loved one, they probably wouldn't put prints all over you. So I'd kind of chalk it up to not being the aunt, unless she just really has no empathy at all. But you've got to like really brutalize somebody to try to tickle them and leave marks. That's not even fun at that point. That's not the way it's supposed to work. So I don't know what the hell's going on there, but that's creepy as hell. I don't know. Something was there, I guess, but it wasn't the kids, and hopefully it wasn't their aunt who liked to tickle the kids, because that's some mean tickling. All right, let's get to the next one here, and this is coming from Indiana. Flat state, good state, but a flat state. Excuse me, didn't mean to do that in the microphone. But it says, I have a few encounters and pictures. I don't know if they're real or not. Let me just check. Now, there's no pictures included with this. So my first story takes place in the sleepy town of Medford, Oregon. Well, that's great because it says it's from Indiana. But anyway, I guess we're going to Oregon, ladies and gentlemen. This one took place when I was 7 years old. My grandpa had just refurbished the kitchen floor and was so proud he took a picture of it. And in this picture, there is what appears to be a ghostly image of a cat. Our neighbors at the time were elderly people who owned many cats, and could have been one of their deceased cats, and I can't post the picture because I lost it many years ago. My next story takes place in Chicago's Bachelor's Grove, which is Illinois now, so we're moving across the country, ladies and gentlemen, which is a very old cemetery, and this happened when I was 10 years old. And my dad and I were out scouting out the old cemetery, and it was in the middle of summer, but it was freezing in the cemetery. We kept hearing unexplainable noises that sounded like wood banging against wood. And this sound didn't match that of the woodpecker, and I also heard what seemed to be footsteps and sighing. And my next and last story takes place where I live now in Hobart, Hobart, Indiana. And this started when I was 25 years old, and it still continues to this day. Sometimes I see dark figures in my window, and I don't know what they are, but there is the possibility that they are ghosts. Also, I hear unexplainable footsteps on my really creaky stairs, and sometimes I also suddenly feel really cold. And my cat freaks out, mostly in the kitchen. He stares at the doorway, and sometimes for hours on end, and refuses to leave that spot. By the way, my current house was built in 1890. Excuse my misspelling and improper English, for I am French and I'm still learning English. Well, I think you did great. Good job, French person learning English. You did great. Yeah, I guess that's a whole lot of paranormal. Now, that kind of brings up a point that it does seem that people that have experienced paranormal activity will continue, or are at least more prone to experience more paranormal occurrences throughout the course of their lives. And I think that it has a lot to do with them being sensitive on some level, whether that's, you want to call it psychic, or you want to call it, a different vibration, or however the hell you want to quantify what that means. But I just think that spirits do find people that are more sensitive than others, and perhaps they reach out to them to try to talk, to try to get some kind of validation or recognition or something. So, because I think if you think about being a spirit, just imagine, your life is whatever it is, and then suddenly you're done with your life, but you're not transitioned. You're still kind of stuck. And suddenly nobody ever sees you or talks to you, and you try and you wave at people and stuff, and nobody acknowledges you. You move stuff around, maybe they notice, maybe they don't. But, I imagine that they really do look for people that might be able to hear them, because it's got to be almost, and I don't know if you can get mentally ill after death or not. I imagine maybe, I don't know. But I imagine you would nearly go insane just being stranded and walking around really not sure what the hell's going on and not really being able to get any help. So I think that's probably why they're so assertive to try to make contact with somebody, is because I think in most cases they just want help. They don't know what the hell's going on or why they're in the condition they're in, but, it can't be fun. I don't know. Again, I keep referring to the Dead Files. And I like that show. I do. I think Amy Allen has some. Granted, I don't know how it's edited. I'm just on face value. I like the show. I don't know if they creatively edited it, or if maybe she is getting sneak peeks from somebody else. I can't speak to that. I'd like to believe that that's not happening. But anyway, The way the show is presented, she goes in and does these readings, and she calls herself a physical medium, meaning that she's reading the structure, she's reading the energy of the place at the time. Excuse me. And she'll talk about things like spirits being stuck in walls and crap, and it sounds like this absolutely horrible nightmare kind of scenarios. And I don't understand that. I don't understand how the hell you end up stuck in a wall after all of this. It's like you go through this life of ups and downs and roller coasters and stuff, and then you could look forward to an eternity of being stuck in a closet somewhere or in a wall or, dangling from the ceiling or something really corny like that. And I don't understand what the hell's going on there, but that's got to be a fresh kind of hell. Anyway, my thoughts on that, whether you wanted them or not. But since I get the microphone, you get them for free, ladies and gentlemen. No extra charge. I give these opinions freely. All right, so that was Indiana / Illinois / Oregon. But now let's go over to Ohio, which is always hopping. Things are always hopping in Ohio. And these are really quick stories tonight, which is fine. They don't all have to be huge. Deep thought. Thanks, 5 Hazel. It's more like wading pool, but I'm doing my best to get a little introspective here. I didn't read the roster. Let me read the story and then we'll see who's here. I don't even know how many are here. I'm not scrolled down. Okay, we got a good number of people here, so that's fun. That's fun. I'm sure more people will come in. Excuse me. Hold on a sec. Maybe that'll be better now. All right, so Ohio. One morning before I went to school, I wanted to make my hair curly. My hair is really naturally straight, so I had to wash it in the laundry room sink first, and my mom always washes her hair in there. But nothing bad ever happens to her. Well, I got my hair wet with the water on warm, and when my hair was wet, I grabbed the shampoo and put the shampoo in my hair, and then I rinsed it out really good, and the water was still on warm also, and I put the conditioner in my hair, and I heard a noise, but I figured it was just my brother in the bathroom, and the laundry room is across from the bathroom, so I wasn't really freaked out. I put my hair under the water again to find out that the water was on hot up to full speed. I was 100% sure it was on warm because I never got burnt before. Then I saw a little white cloudy fog behind me, and I hurried, dried my hair, and got out. I asked my dad if he, Cole, or Mom had come into the laundry room, and Cole was taking a shower in our bathroom as he was before. I went into the laundry room, and my dad was getting ready for work, and my mom was still sleeping. I sure did not run back in there to grab the shampoo or conditioner either. I just let my mom handle that. I don't know. I mean, with water, it can be a lot of factors. I mean, I assume they know their house, but you can have a warm water cooking, and then somebody will flush a toilet, which draws all cold water. So all of a sudden your warm water can turn hot in a different tap just because all the cold pressure is going to a new source. But I don't know. I guess it could be paranormal, but that on its face value to me could be a lot of things. So I don't know if it's always good to jump to paranormal for everything. But, again, maybe they know. Maybe they know whether things like that are normally triggered by their plumbing or not. All right, let's go to the next one. This one's Alabama. I hear it's a sweet home there. That's what I heard. That's what they told me. I'm sorry, it's just corny as hell. I don't know. I get these campy, stupid things in my head, too. So sometimes they come out. I don't know. It's just fun. What the hell? I don't get paid for the comedy, folks. So you can see why. That's just free as well. So, state of Alabama. I want to say I haven't been scared or under any stress at the time of these occurrences. It happens right after I turn off the lights and television, so I know it's not me going in and out of sleep or anything like that. I'm wide awake, being very aware of my surroundings. These images and such do not follow my normal patterns of imagination. I can't really explain it any better than that. You'd have to know me and my friend to understand that, I promise you. I wouldn't even post these things if I thought it could have been more than likely just be my imagination. The proof may come in its own time, but for now all I have to go on is what I see and hear. I believe this gift that I may or may not have may be finally developing. It might all be a very wild imagination, but there's no way I could just make up this stuff. The way the images start out is so simple and then unfolds and is very strange to me. It's normally just random things flashing, but this is so different. It's like they know I would be scared if it all came to at once. So I started seeing this image of these hands turning in some kind of crank. And one hand is still while the other hand is turning in a clockwise rotation. I was just thinking it could be some kind of churn or something, but I had no clue. And then the image began to widen and became darker, and it was an old type of hand drill. I didn't realize there was any importance to this image at the time. And then the spirit started to come forth. I then understood what the drill was being used for. This man was suspended on some type of thin wall, like a plywood board. His arms were stretched out as he was, like he was on a cross. His arms went behind the board and behind the board at the elbows and were tied off through other holes in the board. These two other men began using this hand drill and puncturing through the board through this man's hands. Oh, that's horrible. It was as if they were crucifying him in a very horrifying way. Once they had the holes drilled through the plywood and through his hands, they ran cord wire through and tied it off. Dear God, that's horrible. I began to ask this man, why did they do this to you? And he replied, because I am homosexual. Aww. Back in those times, and even in some places today, being gay wasn't exactly accepted or tolerated by many. These men were probably regarded as heroes by fellow coworkers, those afraid of being sexually harassed by this gay man. But that is just speculation. I want to say this happened in the 1950s, and I don't know why. It's more of a feeling than just a guess, and that is somewhat confirmed by the hand drill they're using. These men were torturing this man for being gay. Nothing more, nothing less. And he told me the two men were co-workers, and they were good friends before, and one day that he decided to tell them about this secret he'd been keeping from them, thinking they wouldn't feel any different about him, but he was very wrong. I asked him how they killed him, and he told me that they just beat him to death while he was suspended on that board, calling him all kinds of derogatory names and cursing him to hell, hitting him in the face with tools and bare hands and pretty much anything they could pick up. I didn't see any other images of this experience other than the beginning where his hands were being drilled through. I think this was more for my protection. He didn't want me to see the worst of it. The rest was told to me by him, and I felt bad at this point. And not just because of what happened to him, but because I was almost completely ignoring him, thinking about writing this story today, and I wasn't doing much to help him. I kept apologizing over and over, saying that I was sorry this happened to him. He didn't want my apologies, though. He wanted these men to pay for what they did. He told me they were still alive today, and they were old men now, with families and grandchildren, and I told them that they would pay in their own time. If not on this earth, then they would stand before their maker. I don't think that comforted him very much, and he said he wants to cause them as much misery as they did to him. But I told him that would not make things any better, and he began to fade after that. And then I heard nothing more. I hope I did something to help this person. I felt so bad about ignoring him, being so selfish and thinking only about how great this is going to be for a story. I'm pretty sure he was upset about that, and I even apologized to him about that. He didn't seem to mind, but I realized I will have to work on that. I was lucky he didn't just leave after that, but now I'm rambling, and I'll let this discussion continue another time, and thanks for reading. Wow. Yeah, that is horrible, horrible, horrible. I don't judge anybody. I don't care how people live, as long as it doesn't hurt anybody else. I think it's nobody else's business, It's just nobody's concern. However people want to live, they live. And of course, there's some very religious people that are very, very against this. But the point being, that's still fine. Your religion enables you to make choices for yourself, but not for everybody else. That's never the scope of religion, even though they try to use such things as methodologies for governing the masses. And I don't know. It's such a hurtful, sad thing whenever somebody would tear down another human being, just literally tear them down because they don't agree with what's going on in their lives. And I think, honestly, just looking at the political landscape anymore, it's like, my God, sometimes I wonder how far away we are from crap like this happening all over. Because there doesn't seem to be a lot of tolerance for people to have opinions except for the mob opinion. And that's scary as hell. So I hope, I don't know. I don't pretend to be able to preach anything. I mean, I'm nobody. I don't have any wise opinions on this stuff other than, live your life the best you can. Don't worry about other people. They're not your responsibility. Just live your life. And if you have room in your heart, love everybody. If you don't, then love as many as you can. But don't think that it's your job to exact some kind of divine punishment, because that's absolutely nobody's job. But anyway, I'll let that go. I don't know. There's nothing happy about any of that. That is just a tragedy. Horrible, horrible tragedy. So anyway, thank you, Beth. I appreciate that. I don't know. Again, I don't mean to preach to anybody. I have enough trouble keeping my own life together. I know I'm not qualified to have, to tell everybody else how to live theirs. And so is everyone else. I mean, most people are hot messes. So, that anybody can think that they are, able to dictate the terms of other people's lives is just in a really delusional place. All right, so let's get to the next one. And this is from Montana. Duke Country. This here comes from Duke Country. Phone's dying. Oh, Don. you and Cha-Cha need to get some cords, get some charging cords. All right. So let's go to Montana and see what the hell's going on here. This story happened when I was younger. It's one of those stories that is told by one of your parents, and you hear it so often, you know it like the back of your hand. When I was between the ages of 2 and 4, my dad worked out in the western part of the United States, and to this day I have no idea what his job was. One afternoon, he was driving down one of the interstates in Montana and was starting to feel himself doze off, and he decided that he would pull off to the side of the interstate and take a little nap to refresh himself. He left his truck running to stay warm, and he set his alarm clock to allow himself 4 hours to nap. He was sleeping soundly when all of a sudden someone started shaking him. And then he heard his uncle tell him to wake up. And it was time to be leaving. When he finally snapped out of it, he realized that it was his Uncle Roy's voice that had woken him up. And Uncle Roy had died about a year before this incident. He woke up to find that after he had fallen asleep, it had started to snow. And his clock had not gone off, and he'd been asleep for about 4.5 hours. It had snowed deep enough to block the tailpipe, and the fumes were starting to come through the air vents. He rolled down his window to let some of the fumes out and thanked Uncle Roy for waking him up. That has been almost 30 years ago, and he can relay this story to you just like it happened yesterday. And he'll also will tell you that if it were not for his Uncle Roy, he wouldn't be alive today. As always, thank you for reading, and any comments are welcome. That's really cool. I love those stories. That's really awesome. I wish those deceased loved ones would get involved a little more often, because I think they could probably save us a lot of heartache. But at least they do it when they do. Okay, so I got to pull up some more stories because those went pretty quickly. And I don't have any calls, anything going on. I was going to read the part. Let's see who's here. Let's see what's going on here. Not a really busy night here on the show. I thought the numbers would really climb, but it's a moderate night. But maybe Thursdays. I don't know if I'm competing with. Am I competing with football? Is there football on tonight? Thursday night football still? Probably, but that's okay. Five Hazel's in here. Beth Fierce is in here. Black Tree is in here. Blue Line Bigfoot. Good to see ya. Thanks for being here. Bob in Germany is here. Cha-Cha is here. Hi, Cha-Cha. Hi, Bob. D. Swiger. Hello, Diana. And Diana Daniels. Hello. Great to be seeing you again, my lady. It's been wonderful to have you back with us. I am Pam. Hello, Pam. Hi, Mary Brim. Real Deal is here. Sasquatch Chronicles. Mr. Wes Germer himself is here. Tinker Pollard and Todd Evans. World Bigfoot Radio and Aether Archives are all here. So thank you, everybody, for being here and being a part of the shows. It's always a rare pleasure to narrate for you. So anyway, just thinking about last night's show. Oh, it was such a laugh riot. Good times, good times. If you didn't see last night's show, definitely check it out. It was a great time. We saw Mr. Wes Germer in pretty rare form. It was a lot of fun. Very funny guy. All right, so let's continue on here. Okay. I got a few more opening up here for you guys for your listening pleasure. Oh, that's weird. How did I pull that one ahead? All right, I'll pull up this one too. Okay, so let's get to some more here. This one is not too horribly long, but it's one I'm not going to read because it's another one of those EVP ones that read like logs and they don't narrate real well. So I never read those on the show because they are kind of dry. All right, so let's go to this one. It's coming from Virginia. So it says, after my granny was diagnosed with mid-body cancers, lung, bone, stomach, she decided to have a portacath put in to start chemo. And we were in the waiting room for hours watching the clock, waiting for a doctor to come out and tell us she was okay. The usual things one does when a loved one is in surgery, and after what seemed like an eternity, only about 2 hours in reality, the doctor finally came out of the door and asked who was with Mrs. Bourne. All of us were there that jumped up and went running over to where he was, and he starts by telling us that the surgery went well. She did fine, and that we could go in and see her in just a few minutes. When it was my turn to go in the room, she was laying there, and her face was red and wet from where she had been crying. I asked her if she was hurting because I would find a nurse right then, and she told me no. And then she starts crying some more. If you aren't in pain, then what is wrong? She tells me that when she first came into recovery, Papa was sitting beside her holding her hand, and she said that at first she thought she was seeing things, so she reached for her glasses and put them on, and there he was, smiling and holding her hand. But then he was gone. She starts crying loud enough to attract the attention of a nurse who came and asked if she was okay. She told the nurse that her husband was sitting there holding her hand and that now he was gone, and she couldn't find him anymore. The nurse told her that she would go out of into the waiting room and have him come back in there just to be with her. And that's when Granny informed the nurse that she wouldn't find him in the waiting room because he died 7 years ago. The nurse told her to just relax and she would go get the doctor to come talk to her. While I was in there, the doctor came in to see if she was okay, and she told him what had happened, as her and I both were wiping away tears. Well, he was a religious man and even offered to close the curtain and say a prayer with us. He told her that he had been witness to many things in his time and that he didn't doubt her for one moment. Well, that's nice. It's nice to get that reassurance rather than just a carte blanche dismissal like, no, that's not science. Get your weird stuff out of my hospital. We always got to have room for hope, for faith, you know, the good stuff. This one's coming from California. I really want to go to California. I hear it's warm in California, and it's not warm here. Although today wasn't horrible, it's just still, I'm just not ready for cold ever again. All right. When I was young, I lived in San Francisco Bay Area. In comparison to other states or even other countries, California is relatively young, meaning that there's not nearly as much history as in other locations. When I was a young girl of about 9 or 10, my brother, who is 3 years older than me, wanted to go check out the haunted house on our block. From the outside, it was a modest single-story house, and judging by the rest of the neighborhood, must have been built around 1940, not really old. However, from the outside, the white paint was peeling, and there was a huge weeping willow that covered most of the house. Plus, the windows were really dirty and hard to see into. Now, remember, I was only 9 or 10 years old, so this is what I remember seeing. My brother and his friends decided to explore, technically break in, and I had never been in the house because it was vacant for many years, and walking around the house, it looked normal. Wood floors, white walls, and very empty. My brother and his friends were goofing off in the kitchen, and I went into the hallway. And this is when I got really turned around and started to panic a little. This is about 1,400 square feet home. Not really large. I walked towards the bathroom at the end of the hallway and opened the cabinet in the bathroom, just being Snoopy, and closed it. I gained my composure and walked out of the bathroom and past the hallway closet and found my way back to the entrance of the living room when something caught my eye. I whipped my head back to the bathroom, and the bathroom cabinet was open as well as the hall cupboard doors. I was totally freaked out and ran back to my brother to get out of there. A few months later, a girl my age and her family moved in, and I was good friends with her, and she probably thought I was weird, but I never wanted to spend the night at her house. Sounds minor, but I was just a kid, and even now at 35, I can still remember how absolutely scared I was. You're not really ready to see things opening by themselves, I suppose. Oh, that's what that is. I'm just hearing weird ticking noises. Now I know I'm not used to the sounds of the furnace yet. So I was going to go full Merkel there and start exercising it. Christ compels you. Sorry. I was just kidding. Tony Merkel called into the show one time and told us a story of when he was in his house and heard this weird noise and turned around and saw his shades moving, and it was just hilarious. We're going to put that together for our Halloween episode, so you're going to have to check it out. It was a really funny story. Anyway, well, we're going to have by the way, we are going to have a Halloween marathon. It's a portal-thon, and we're going to be doing the portal for several hours. Don't know how many yet. Not sure what that means right now, but we're going to do it for as long as we can, and hopefully you guys will be here and joining us if you're able to. It's probably going to get pretty quiet in there, though, because it'll be a work week night, which sucks, but well, what do you do? Okay, so we're going to Illinois on this one. And it says, first off, I want to thank everyone for their encouragement and advice that they give on these forums. I really feel out of my element with this situation, and you guys have been my foundation, especially several of you. I managed to sit down and have a talk with my son and asked him about the girl and the doll, and I told him he wasn't doing anything wrong, and neither was she, but that she might be in need of help. He told me he has seen her in dreams, and when she came to him looking for someone to play with. This is a story that obviously has a backstory, but we'll just keep reading it. He says that she asked him to take care of her doll for her. Oh, I remember this one. This is the one where they moved into a house and he put the doll up in the attic box, and next thing you knew, it was back down in the main area, and the little boy could not have gotten it. So I remember this one now. Okay. So he says that she asked him to take care of her doll for her, and then he woke up and the doll was sitting on his dresser. He said he didn't tell me where he got it before because he thought that I'd be mad. I made sure he understood and I believed him, and I was not mad. I asked a bit more about the girl, but he doesn't know anything else, and I asked him if he still sees her in his dreams, and he told me sometimes. I told him that he should ask her name and tell her she doesn't have to hide from me if she's around, and that I wasn't mad at her. I've also gotten in touch with another psychic who is a functional medium, and he said he would come and have a look, and I'm not sure if I want him to come while Cam is here, and I'm not sure what I would tell Cam about who he is. I don't know if he's aware the girl is a ghost, but if he isn't, I don't want to scare him. Especially don't want to frighten him with all the brute presence if he isn't already aware of it. So I wrote the first half of this post before when the site wasn't taking submissions. I woke up the night before last to hear Cam screaming for me. When I ran to him, I found him sitting down, backed up against the wall at the top of the stairs. He was so scared he had peed himself, and he said he saw her fall down the stairs, and then she didn't move. And I suggested we go get him cleaned up, and he started crying, and he said he was afraid he would fall, and I offered to hold his hand and help him, but he just dissolved into crying, and I went downstairs, got a bucket of water and a cloth for him to clean himself, and I assured him it was just a dream. He wasn't going to fall down the stairs, but he still seemed so scared. We got him some clean pajamas, and I sat him up for a while until he finally fell asleep. And I noticed the doll was back again, so I asked him if he got the doll, got to talk to her again. He shook his head and said she walked out into the hall, and he followed her, and that's when he saw her at the bottom of the stairs. And then he woke up, and I'm wondering if this is how she died. And what about the girl at the bottom of the stairs and the stomping coming up the stairs? I don't know if this is coincidence. Okay, well, great questions. I don't know either. All right, no calls. We're good. Oh, we're up to 47. All right, well, more people are coming in. That's wonderful. Welcome, everybody that has come in since I welcomed you all before. It's good to see you guys. All right, so this is Maine. About 4 years ago, when I was 9, my aunt and uncle bought a big, old, supposedly haunted house in Maine. We also lived in Maine, but we moved. See the ghost. There's another story that they're referring to. We lived 10 minutes away from my aunt, and the only way to get there was by car because the house was basically in the middle of the woods, which made it seem even more creepy since there was hardly any sunlight in there. My aunt and uncle worked full-time, so when it was summer vacation, my mom would drive me and my grandma over to my aunt's house to take care of her 2 kids, Jolie, 3, now 7, and David, 6, now 9. And my grandma never liked going there. She was always complaining about the kids. One time she said that they could destroy a whole house in less than 5 minutes. It wasn't an angel. I wasn't an angel either, so when David and Jolie, it's French, were up to no good, I would just play along with their schemes. And as I said before, the house was huge. The previous owners left some furniture, and my aunt and uncle bought a little more, so they had a lot of furniture. But the weird thing is that the house looked empty, and the furniture looked like a couple of dots on a sheet of white paper. There was one room that didn't have any furniture at all except an old wardrobe, and we called it the blue room because the walls were painted a weird electric blue. The room had a different vibe than the rest of the house, and I'm pretty sure that it's haunted. So like usual, my aunt and uncle went to work, and my mom drove me and my grandma to take care of the kids, and when we got there, I found out that Jolie broke David's favorite toy and wanted to get revenge by stealing her Barbie doll. So while Jolie was eating lunch, we snuck into her room, grabbed her doll, and buried it in the sandbox. And of course, my grandma saw us through the window, and because Jolie was crying, we had to give it back. After we ate lunch, my grandma said that Jolie was tired, so she sent us to the blue room so Jolie could fall asleep without any distractions. And as I said before, there wasn't any furniture in that room except for an old wardrobe. And since there was nothing to do, we opened it and started to look through the stuff. There wasn't really anything in there except for some old jackets and some heavy books at the top shelf. And since we were little, we took some books down and looked for some colorful pictures. And then there was a knocking on the door. I closed my book and ran to open it, and to my surprise, there was no one there. I went back to looking through the books and told myself it was just the wind, but I put a heavy book in front of the door so no one could get in. We were almost done looking through the books when there was a knocking on the door again, and thinking it was our grandma, we yelled, "Come in." The door opened all by itself, moving the book, and there were no windows or doors open, and we ran out of the room screaming for our lives. We woke Jolie, and she started crying, so my grandma told us to go outside and play on the swings now. We walked to the swings, very disappointed that no one would believe us. I thought about what had happened. It was impossible for a door to open by itself and move a heavy book as well, if all the windows and doors are closed. But it was almost time for my mom to pick me up, so I went to the bathroom to wash my hands. And when I was about to go outside, something told me to look right. Well, I turned my head just in time to see a shadow leave the blue room. I don't know much about the history of the house, but all I know is that it was built in 1871. What shocked me about my aunt's house was the price. It was as if the people just wanted to get rid of it as fast as possible. that's usually a good sign that you might be buying more than just a house, ladies and gentlemen. If it's too good to be true, it probably is. All right, we got a caller, and this is area code 228. You're on the show.
Well, hello, good evening. How are you?
I'm wonderful. How are you tonight?
Well, I'm glad the phone's working. You must have got all of the paranormal ghosts out of the phone line by now, huh?
I didn't do anything, but apparently they're just working now. So whatever's going on, I'm really glad it is, because it's nice to be able to talk to people.
Well, I have a question for you, Brent.
Okay.
I would like to know your most horrifying encounter.
My most horrifying encounter. Does it matter which subject area?
No,
Okay.
not at all.
That would definitely be when I was young. I was 14. It's a story I told on Cade's show when I was on there, and also told it on Sasquatch Chronicles. But I was 14 years old, and my friend and I, we lived right next to a state park, state forest reserve area. And we went up and hiked the hills all the time. We were always up in the hills. And being a kid, we would up there play guns and roll down big boulders. It was there was quite a lot of limestone boulders scattered all over the place, and we'd roll them down and they crash and stuff. And we were just having a good time being 14 and 15-year-old kids. And we were up there on the hill for a long time, and it was starting to get later in the day, so we decided we better start coming down. And so we came down this dry run. It's like a ravine that was carved out over thousands of years, because it isn't a regular running stream. It's just when the snow melts off, it just has carved off this big ravine. And so there's all dried up waterfalls, and it's a dry run completely. But we were coming down that ravine, and we got to the edge of this maybe 8-foot waterfall, and we're standing right on the edge of it, looking down the rest of the path, just taking a break. And we're just relaxing for a minute. And nothing, it's a quiet day. And suddenly from right behind us, and by right behind us, I'm saying like 8 or 10 feet behind us, there is this deep rumbling growl of something that I had never, ever heard before. But it pretty much vibrated my body as much as I heard it. I mean, it was that kind of a rumbly growl. Now, I grew up and lived in the southeastern part of Minnesota. And the biggest thing that we had in the woods that I knew of was white-tailed deer, and they don't growl. There's foxes and coyotes and stuff like that, but this sounded like it was huge. Whatever it was freaking enormous, and it was just the most menacing growl. Now, we both were absolutely frozen, and I'm here to tell you, and it's a feeling I get every time I retell this story, because you kind of go back in your old shoes. That sound, whatever was making that sound, was going to kill me. I just knew it was going to kill me, and for the life of me, I could not make myself turn around. I was frozen, and maybe I really was frozen. But I even though I may have been infrasounded or something, I was frozen. I did not want to see what that was before it killed me. I just wanted, whatever was going to happen, it was going to happen, but I was not going to look at it. I didn't want to take that memory with me in the afterlife or whatever. I don't know. I just couldn't face it. And we stood there as this thing growled for just a few seconds, and we were frozen. But finally I said to my friend, I said, what the hell is that? And he said, I don't know, but we have to get the hell out of here now. And we did the only thing we could do, which was to run down this rest of this dry run ravine, hopping around on boulders and stuff, and just getting the hell out of there, never once looking back, until we went about a mile down to the road where there's actually a paved road. And then we stopped, and it didn't seem like anything was chasing us. I mean, we didn't hear anything pursuing us the whole way, but it was the most terrifying, horrible sound of my life. And it was the one time that I thought I was, going to be killed by something. And for many years, I didn't know what it was. I didn't have a reference point for anything other than, I mean, I'd heard of things like Bigfoot before. I watched the show In Search of all the time with Leonard Nimoy, and I heard about Bigfoot, but it was something in the Pacific Northwest, not in Minnesota. So I had no point of reference for whatever the hell this was. But it wasn't until many, many years later and carrying this in the back of my mind, never understanding what the hell this could be. And now I never saw it. So I can't say for sure because I just couldn't look. But I started learning about what some people claim are behaviors of Bigfoot. Some of the signs that people claim are things that Bigfoot do. And as an adult, about 10 years ago, maybe 15, I went back up into those woods. No, it was less than that. It was like less than 10 years ago, maybe 8 years ago. Went back up in those woods with one of my children, my oldest child, and started looking around. And I started to see some of those signs that they attribute to Bigfoot, like these big, sapling trees like maples, this big snapped off with nothing that came down to break them. I mean, they were in this thick forest area, but there was nothing that took it down. It was just broken and laying there. And I have a picture of it, actually. I have several pictures of what I captured up in that area. I found a small structure that may be some form of Bigfoot structure. I don't know, but that and hearing so many stories of hunters, one of which is my brother, who hunted deer and hunts deer. But of these hunters claiming that they shot these deer and they would follow blood trails to find nothing. And these deer had obviously bled out, but there was nothing, and not even a gut pile where another hunter cleaned it out and took it away. So, I just think that I don't know if they're in this area all the time, but I kind of believe that they might migrate through this area. And we just happened to be in that area at the same day they were coming through. And that's the only idea I have, is that it might have been a Bigfoot. But it was absolutely the most terrified feeling that I've ever had in my life.
Well, and that'll definitely make someone think twice about a deer they shoot that they can't find, and no blood trail to boot.
Yeah.
My brothers have had the same experience where I live.
Mm-hmm.
And, when you've been hunting all day or you've been scoping on a deer for months, you've been following their trails and whatnot, and you finally bag that deer, you're ready to go collect your dinner, and to not find it is just mind-boggling.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and you wonder what carried your deer off. That's right.
Yeah. It was an intense experience, and I can't say beyond a shadow of doubt that that's what it was, and that's what's doing it. But there, with only the small predators attributed to the area, there's nothing can haul away a deer. And if another hunter would have gotten it, they would have just dressed it out right there and dragged it out, because it wasn't like it was right next to a road. It was really deep in the brush where they track this to, and it just ends, and there's no sign of anything. It's just like something picked up this 150 pound, 200 pound deer, whatever, big whitetail, and just hauled it out. So really crazy. Very
Brett,
crazy. Yes.
Not that this is paranoia, but do you find that each time you go out into the wilderness or the woods now, are you more alert and noticing all movements around you that you didn't normally notice in life prior to figuring out, gee, that might have been a Sasquatch that came up and growled behind me?
Yeah.
Are you noticing that you're more hyper sensitive when you're in the woods now?
I always thought I was before, but I guess even with all of my attention to this and having, like, when I was at that age, I had a fascination with ninja. That was when the ninja movies were all coming out, and so I'd go up there and at 14 years old trying to be a ninja in the forest and stuff. So I thought I was hyper aware anyway, but but yeah, you're right. I mean, once you come to the conclusion that something else might be there that is so much bigger and menacing and scary, yeah, I think you have a new respect for every time you enter the forests. I mean, I do, for sure. Because that, between that and dogmen and all the other stuff I've learned about since doing this show, there's a lot of things out there that
Well,
potentially out there that we just don't understand. So
Well, and it's not just anything that can go cracking 3 to 5 inch around branches.
Right. Yeah.
And you know they're green, and when they snap and they twist,
Yeah.
and you can hear it go, "Ah," spout.
Yeah.
And that's very frightening to hear something do that in the woods.
Yeah. And I gotta tell you though, I mean, I'd heard trees cracking on the hill, for years, all through my childhood and stuff, but I never really thought anything of it. Now, there's plenty of other reasons trees can crack, but one thing that Minnesota doesn't get that we get out here in the Pacific Inland Northwest is snow load. Because, we get like 8, 10 inches or something on average, but we don't usually get 3 or 4 feet of heavy, wet snow. But up, in this area, tree breakage is real common because of excessive snow load and winds. It just pulls them right down. Plus, being conifer trees, they can be more brittle. But this was a maple. I mean, it was a really flexible hardwood tree, and it was snapped off and just laying there. It was really crazy. And then I would find also these little sapling branches that were they were broken on both sides. Like, so it'd be about maybe a foot long piece, but all of the fresh bark was peeled off, and it was still moist to the touch. So something had snapped off that branch and peeled that really green bark off. And I don't know if that's a dietary thing or what. Maybe it's something they eat. Being omnivores, which I believe they are, perhaps that's one of the things they eat is maybe the sweet bark, sapling bark or whatever. I don't know.
Well, as long as they're not busy eating people, that's a good thing.
Well, there's plenty of deer up in that area, so I mean they're never going to go hungry if that's what they're living on. And as plenty of cornfields and other farming in the vicinity. So there's all kinds. I'm pretty sure they're very well fed if they're hanging out there.
I recently reviewed a video. I can't remember the name of it. Don't put me on the spot for
Sure.
it. But it was after the Mount St. Helens eruption,
Oh, sure. Yeah.
where the military was involved and they were collecting bodies. And there's one account of a soldier that has a Sasquatch riding in his truck, and they're going around, and the Sasquatch is mentally telepathically communicating,
Oh,
and
sure.
they're going with the soldier, and he's also talking a language no one understands.
Mm-hmm.
The soldier is with the Sasquatch, and he also, as they're passing areas, the Sasquatch looks over and shakes his head no to the soldier. That means nobody survived in that cave or that area.
Mm-hmm.
And then he goes a little further, and the Sasquatch communicates to the soldier to stop, and they go in and they bring an injured Sasquatch out. So, I mean, and in hearing that encounter,
Mm-hmm.
you know that the military's involved somehow. And, I really just wish that they would disclose some more of the information that they have. Because the one thing we're finding out, and, I watch a lot of videos and shows on Sasquatch,
Mm-hmm.
and, and I've had my own encounters as well. But the one thing I'm really noticing is if they wanted to kill us, they surely could.
Oh, yeah.
And
we are
right, and thus far, to my knowledge, there's no film out there where a Sasquatch is aggressively harming any human being. So
Right.
that's an upshot,
Yeah, it seems to be. I mean, of course, there's plenty of opportunities that they could. I don't know that they never do. I think that, perhaps some of the whole missing 411 stuff could be somehow related to that. But again, that's just absolutely speculation. I have no real grounds for saying that. But I will say that, by natural standards, human beings are absolutely pathetic. We are slow runners. We're not incredibly strong. We're not agile in life, and we are out of our element completely in the forests. We can hardly run through the forest without tripping or falling or busting something. But that's the area these things live and thrive, and we are so outclassed in every way. We're basically at like this side of Turtle, and that's about it. But there are so many things that that live and call it home, and I don't think we could probably put up that much of a fight to any reasonable sized predator, and much less something like a Sasquatch. If it wasn't for firearms and maybe a lot of people with really big blades, I don't know. What would we do? We would be well out of our class, though. We're not in that same category. We reshape the world to our comfort, and so we've probably lost a lot of that ability that maybe our really ancient ancestors had. But what do you do?
Well, used to encounter stories were basically specific to the Northwest, specifically the Pacific Northwest, and yes, Canada and Alaska, and in just being curious and watching videos and reading encounters, I've really noticed that there's almost no area that people aren't reporting seeing them, or at least hearing branches pop, or noticing structures, or noticing footprints.
Right. No, I will say that
And
I think
you mentioned 411, and boy, I kind of have to stay away from that subject, Brent, because I've scratched my head on that one.
Sure. I will say that I don't think that's I think that's commonly believed that the reports were only coming out of the Pacific Northwest, but I think that everybody has had their regional legends forever. Momo and the Grassman and the Skunk Apes and the wild men that were reported in the 1800s all over the the East and the the Smoky Mountains all over there. It's just that there wasn't a unifying term before. So now there's these unifying terms of Sasquatch and Bigfoot, and so we know that we have a unifying term. Otherwise, it seemed like these regional anomalies that were probably not shared outside of specific regions because they didn't know it was happening anywhere else. They thought it was just them.
Well, and some researchers are researching the physical aspects of it, trying to prove they're flesh and blood beings. Mm-hmm. And then there's other people that are really incorporating the paranormal aspects. And, the indigenous peoples, there's lore of indigenous peoples, outright, really just saying, no, they're mortal, but yet they're dimension travelers.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's a diversified study of people,
sure.
Researching Sasquatch. And I find that fascinating.
Sure.
I'm accepting of everyone's encounter because I've experienced my own, mm-hmm. and I know they're real. And I don't really want to see another one again, Brent. It wasn't a good encounter for me.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I do realize that, there's a lot of people that, may have had good encounters, but I'm just not one of those people.
Yeah, I think a good encounter is maybe through binoculars. That might be a good encounter, but anything closer than that, and you just don't know. You don't know what's on their mind. You don't know what their plan is. There are legends of people being hurt by these things and being killed by them. So, are they true or not? I can't say for sure, but as long as there's a legend of it, I will definitely hold that in my conscious mind as a possibility. I don't want to be added to that list for sure.
Well, and I'm not trying to put the fear-mongering factor in it either, but, it's hard to deny that there's encounter stories from just about all of the lower 48 now.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, there is. Most definitely. And even Mexico, too, and all over the place.
And I just don't think that, everyone's a good storyteller. I really think a lot of these people are telling the truth.
Sure.
They know what they saw. They know what they endured. And so I guess I'm giving a big shout out tonight for everyone to be a little bit more compassionate, no matter what a person's encounter story is,
mm-hmm.
because we're all unique individuals, and how we interpret what we experience is always going to be a little different than another person.
Right.
No two are going to be the same.
Mm-hmm. I would say that you're right, and I think that's great advice. And certainly everybody sees the world uniquely through their own eyes, and so just because something doesn't fit in a paradigm for someone else doesn't invalidate it. And so just keep an open mind for sure.
And frankly, you got mods down there in the chat who say that if you don't call in, something's going to happen to you.
Well,
So I'm checking the phone line, and gee, Brent, it's working just fine. So all those other people, that aren't calling in, I'm not an eloquent speaker. I slur a little when I talk. I'm not a perfect person, but at least I'm trying to reach out and talk with you, Brent, because I really admire Paranormal Portal.
oh,
And
thank you.
I really do. This is Bob Hazel, and I love you all.
Oh, we love you
And
too.
you just have a great audience, and God bless you all. And
Aw.
I'll bid you adieu.
Well, thank you, ma'am, and thank you so much for calling in and being a part of the show.
Thank you.
All right, very cool. I love it when you guys reach out and call. I see Blue Line Bigfoot's in here. Hello, thanks for coming in, guys. I didn't see that before, but or at least one of you are here. I'm not sure which one, but you're here, and that's all that matters. You're representing. And check out them guys. Go check out Blue Line Bigfoot as well. They got some really crazy videos and fantastic work that they're doing. And they also team up with Bigfoot Odyssey and do the Blue Line Bigfoot versions of Bigfoot Odyssey researchers report, which is really cool. A lot of fun. They're fun guys. They're fun to watch and listen to, and got a good sense of humor for sure. But I think we're over an hour, so that'll probably do it for tonight. But I hope you guys enjoyed the journey, and thank you so much for sharing it with me tonight. Of course, I'll be back tomorrow with the 2-hour show, and we'll see what kind of mayhem I'll get into then. Even I don't always know. Don's out there chuckling, going, "You never know." But maybe I do, and maybe I just pretend I don't. You got to think about that. So, anyway, guys, I hope you had a great night. I hope you have a great day tomorrow. Happy Friday tomorrow. So, just know the weekend's here, or just about. You just got to make it through Friday. So, you guys have a great Friday, and I'll be waiting for you right here at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on our YouTube channel, as we are also simulcast broadcasting live on tfrlive.com, iHeart, TuneIn, TalkStream Live as well. So, I guess I'll see you guys then, but I love you all. Be good, be kind, be nice, take care of each other, help each other out, find the magic in every day, and remember to laugh as much as you can. Good night, everybody, and sweet dreams.